All right, welcome back. We have Zach Lahn here in studio to talk about his campaign for governor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first I want to get to, you have the MAHA Action endorsement. You were the first candidate to ever be endorsed by RFK Jr.'s team. What does this endorsement mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot. I think especially when it comes to terms with, the health of our kids, the water quality we have in the state, the cancer crisis we're facing. What it means to me is that they recognize Iowa as a place that has a ton of potential. And what makes me most excited about it is that we're bringing a lot to bear of great minds that understand what's going on and what can be done to help improve the health of our kids, to make sure we have safe and effective medications and vaccines, to make sure that we are prioritizing things like growing local food and nutrient-dense food to serve to our kids in public schools. So I think it opens a great door for discussion about the health principles. And I gotta tell you, it's one of those things when I talk about it on the campaign trail, it's 90% of the people, they're just right there. They understand that how we eat, prioritizing our health, and the longevity that we're going to see is really important.
On the issue of cancer rates, you mentioned that. What are some policies that you would like to see as governor?
I think there's a couple key things. And, number one, I do believe that the state has a role to play to make sure that we are getting good foundational science to know what is safe to be using in Iowa. I believe, I've said this very clearly, that for a long time, I believe Iowans know this, we've been lied to by big agricultural companies about the safety of the product. I don't even think that's a controversial thing to say. We have internal communications that show that this is the truth. And so the very first thing, I think, is that no company should have immunity from liability, period. If your product harms somebody, that person should have recourse to be able to have their day in court, adjudicate that, and make sure that they have recourse to have that wrong righted.
On the issue of abortion, you describe yourself as a pro-lifer.
Yeah.
So what are some policies that you would like to see as governor? Do you think that we already have enough with the fetal heartbeat law, or do you think that there needs to be even more legislation?
I think the legislature has done a really good job prioritizing the protection of life. I believe that life begins at conception. I've been very open about that. But I also, I want to take this sometimes in a different direction for even Republicans, is that, we've often said that we support life at conception until natural death. What we're failing to realize is that natural death is coming sooner and sooner in the state of Iowa. We're actually at a point where this next generation, they're projected to be the first generation to have a lower lifespan than my generation. That is a pro-life issue that we have to solve. That's why I say this, clean water is a pro-life issue. Lowering our cancer rates is a pro-life issue. Even things like pulling the COVID vaccines off the market is a pro-life issue. I think that for a long time, we have really focused heavily on protection of life before birth, which I'm in agreement with. We also have to remember that the fight for life doesn't end after birth. We have to make sure we're putting in place policies to help our citizens live longer, healthier.
Education is also one of your top priorities. And in our last interview, you told me that you wanted to create innovation zones.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
It's really interesting. I just came from an event in Indianola where I was talking to a school board president. And what it looks like is the governor has unique authority in some of these areas. One of the ways is to empower superintendents and school boards and teachers and principals to have more innovative practices and also some budget to go along with that. So I think what it looks like is unburdening teachers from some of the standardized practices that they've been having to work with, and be able to free them up to implement some of these more innovative practices that we see all over the country. I mean, truly, you can go to other states that have been doing this. They've been doing it for decades. It's time that we understand that one size fits all is not true in education. And there's things that young people need, just something as simple as that a young person should not be in a desk for 7 hours a day. And then when they can't sit still, medicated because there's something wrong with them. There's not. There's actually something wrong with the system that they're within. And I know many teachers that would love to innovate in this space, and I want to empower them to do that.
On school funding this session, the legislators, they passed a 2% increase for state supplemental aid. Inflation was at 3%. Do you think that was the right call? Do you think it should have been more or less? Do you have any thoughts on it?
On specific numbers, I haven't went deep on the exact specific numbers, but here's the trend I'm seeing. And number one, I think that as Republicans, we've got to do a better job at making sure it's known that the governor has to be the #1 advocate for public school kids in the state. And that has to be a given, because there are kids out there that need help, and we need to make sure we have their back. So when it comes to the funding, what I really looked at is, in the 1990s, when I was a kid in elementary school in Sioux City, we were #1 in the nation in education. We've dropped 26, maybe some rankings 29 points. And that was all before the ESA programs were even put in place. And during that same time, we had something around along the lines of a 200% increase in per pupil funding. So my bigger concern is making sure that as we spend money on education, that we're getting an increased result from that. And so as far as the exact numbers go, I'd have to go dig deep into that with the legislature. But the number one priority is that as we spend money, we should be getting better results, not worse.
So you mentioned ESAs. I wanted to get your thoughts on, would you make any changes as governor to the program, things like auditing it or expanding it, anything that you think would be useful?
You know, I've talked quite a bit about this, and I try to come to this from a practical standpoint that, you know, Iowans deserve to know that their tax dollars are being spent wisely. And so, but from that standpoint, this program has come under a lot of political attack. And that's not what Iowans are looking for. We're not looking to make a political tax out of this. So I would be in favor of finding a way that we would have third-party auditing of making sure that, you know, the funds are being spent wisely, but it can't be done from a political standpoint. And also, I think it needs to make sure that we're protecting the privacy of these institutions. And so there's a delicate balance there, but we do deserve to make sure and know that we are spending public dollars wisely. But also, I think that because of the level of politics this has been involved in, that has to come from a third party.
This session, property tax reform was passed by the legislature, and a few years ago they also had some changes to income taxes as well. So as governor, do you have any tax policies that you want Iowans to know about? Yeah,
well, I think number one, I look at what's been going on with our farmland in Iowa, with over a quarter of our state now owned by people who don't live here. A lot of these entities are out-of-state investment funds and investors, people that are coming in and helping to drive the price up of land, keeping young farmers off of land. I've been very clear, I'd like to create a new class of property, and that would be investment farmland with proper exemptions for Iowans that are doing that work, but would raise property taxes on out-of-state investors, and we'd use those funds to lower property taxes for Iowa residents. Now, there's other states that are doing this. Florida's doing this, are looking at it. Montana's done it. I think it's smart. I also look at, you know, how do we take advantage of, you know, things like the data centers that want to come to our state. They're offering very little in terms of value and jobs. The long-term value they could add, as long as they're protecting resources like water and electricity, but the long-term value they could add is to pay far more in property taxes to be here. And we could use those funds to lower property taxes in the communities. I have called for a complete moratorium on data centers until we get good policy worked out, but I think that's another lever we could pull to benefit Iowans.
This session, a bill that did not pass would restrict the use of eminent domain for carbon capture pipelines. There's been some division amongst the Republican Party about what this bill should look like. If you're governor next year and a bill does not pass, would you consider writing an executive order?
Yes, I would. Oh yeah, and more so than even that, it would be looking at the Iowa Utilities Commission. Are they doing the job to defend private property rights of Iowans? And so I'm very hopeful that the legislature will solve this issue. I know there's a lot of will to do that, and there's a lot of populist, you know, sentiment around it to solve this problem on behalf of the private property owners in our state. But as governor, I would take extra measures to make sure that we are, again, we need to stop what's happening here because it's against our state constitution, and we need to get back at the table to make a proper plan that would protect private property rights and also support industry to the extent that they should be supported.
Also, in our last interview, you told me you wanted to create bonuses to keep young people in Iowa. What will that look like? You know,
I think, well, number one, every kid that leaves Iowa, after we educate them, we spend about $200,000 educating our kids. We educate some of the best kids in the country. Everyone that leaves Iowa, it's about $4.5 million in lifetime earnings that leaves the state, and that equates to about $450,000 in property taxes that's gone from the state of Iowa. And that's aside from the culture and traditions and values. I mean, not being around grandparents and having tight-knit families, which is my main concern. But I look at it as, you know, maybe it's something along the lines of, you know, having income tax freeze for them, or no income tax for 10 years, or however long it is, to build up an account that would go towards a down payment on a home. So if you have, you know, somebody that move here that's trained in the trades or in a remote job, that's an easy ask to get them to come here as long as you have the right incentives in place. And if you had that fund set up, you could help young people afford to buy a home, and do that by saying thank you for coming back home.
Okay, so really quickly, I just wanted to ask you, you called on Congressman Feenstra and State Auditor Rob Sand a few weeks ago to do a debate with you. Have you got any responses? How's that moving along?
No traction.
Okay.
I wish there was. I'd still love to do it, and I think we have another debate coming up. I hope all candidates can be there, and also would love to have a meaningful discussion with Rob Sand about the issues that Iowans are facing too.
If this race goes to convention, will you be the candidate?
I believe we have a great shot at convention. I believe our message resonates most with the grassroots base about putting Iowa first. And, I don't think it's going to go to convention, but if it does, I believe we have a great shot.
And in 30 seconds or less, what is your final pitch to Iowans? Why should they vote for you and not your 4 Republican competitors?
I think it's very clear that it's time that we put Iowans first. For a very long time, entrenched interests, special interests, corporate giants have had far too much say in our state, and they've extracted far too much. It's time to start building our state back with the citizens that live here.
All right, Zach Lahn, thank you so much for being here. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah, we'll be right back.